Good afternoon. Welcome to the LinguaFolio for North Carolina in 2019-2020. This is a World Languages webinar series in collaboration with the ESL Title III team. This is the NCDPI LinguaFolio team. Today we are Dr. Anne-Marie Gunter, World Languages Consultant, and Satlia Stocks, ESL Title III Consultant. This is the agenda for today. We're going to have a welcome and overview, a LinguaFolio in North Carolina, the story from since 2005 to the present, and we're going to talk about the future a little bit. We also have LinguaFolio webpage and resources, free access to LinguaFolio, LinguaFolio Cafe, LinguaFolio sponsorship project, and we're going to close with some questions. To begin, we want to know who joined the webinar today. So are you an ESL teacher, a world language teacher, teacher of both ESL and world languages, and a school administrator, or other? Do you have any other role? So we're going to run our poll. You're going to see in the screen in a minute. And please select the option that applies to you. Are you an ESL teacher, world languages teacher, both, or a school administrator? Or if we have other people participating today. Okay, almost everyone has participated, so we're gonna wait a little bit more. Okay, we're gonna close our poll. Let's see who has joined us today. Okay, so we have 20% of the audience today are ESL teachers, 56% were language teachers, 4% are in both worlds, ESL and world languages, 8% school administrators, and 12% other. Okay. Now we want to know where you are located. What section of the state are you? What is your LEA or charter school? So we have different districts. We have 8 State Board of Education districts in North Carolina. We have the Eastern region with districts 1 and 3, Northern region with district 5 and 7, Southern region with districts 2 and 4, Western region with districts 6 and 8, and maybe we have someone who has joined and works in different and multiple regions. So we're going to start our poll. So let us know, where are you located? Okay, we're gonna wait a few more minutes or seconds before we close our poll. So if you just join us, please answer the current poll on the screen. Where are you located? Okay, we're gonna close the poll. All right, so we have 25% educators from the Eastern region, districts 1 and 3, 4% Northern region, districts 5 and 7, 38% from the Southern region, yay, we have a lot of teachers tonight, and 21% from the Western region, districts 6 and 8, and educators in multiple regions, 13%. All right. Once again, thank you for being with us today. Okay, so we are going to continue. And we want to know, why did you join us today? We know you like Anne-Marie and Satli a lot, and you join us today for these 2 hours of great information. And we have some specific questions. So we're going to run our poll, and we want to know if you are a teacher implementing LinguaFolio in your classroom or classrooms, leader gathering resources for local presentations, an educator earning a content hour for licensure renewal, individuals getting a question answered, or someone anonymous on a fall afternoon. So please answer the question as soon as you see the poll on the screen. Okay, a few seconds and we're going to close the poll. Please respond to the poll question using that feature in GoToWebinar and place any questions you may have at the moment in the questions box. We're going to close the poll now. Okay, we have 64% of attendees today, teachers implementing LinguaFolio in your classroom. Yay, great. And we have great news for all of you because we have worked really hard at the department to be able to offer LinguaFolio not only for world languages, but also ESL teachers. And we're really excited that you are here tonight and you will learn about these opportunities. So we have continued with our poll. 28% leaders gathering resources for local presentations. Great. 40% educators earning a contact hour for licensure renewal. And I'll read a very important information about this for those 40% participants that are joining us today. 20% individuals getting a question answered. And 4% anonymous enjoying a pumpkin spice latte this afternoon. Oh, we're so jealous. We wish we could have one right now. But we have some water. It's okay. So for those of you who are here to learn or earn a contact hour, we want to remind you something very important. Contact hours to accumulate for a CEU can be earned by those who participate in the live broadcast of webinars in the World Languages webinar series. Today's webinar is 2 hours long, so 2 contact hours or 0.2 CEUs can be earned. So please save the email you received from the GoToWebinar system to document these contact hours towards a CEU for licensure renewal. This is a content activity for world languages. Now, local LEAs or districts or charter schools must approve professional development offerings. In addition, a recording is being made of today's webinar and the archive, including this PowerPoint or slide deck slides, will be available for local training approximately 1 week from today. We always say 1 week, but maybe in a couple of days you will have all these resources available. So these materials can be used as professional development PD resources locally, with contact hours documented by the district or the school. So you will have all these and you will be able to use all the materials in your classrooms. So we're going to close this poll. And we're going to check our questions box to see if we have received any questions. Okay, we don't have any questions so far. I'm going to continue monitoring the question box and I'm going to invite Anne-Marie, Dr. Gunter, to help us with the next activity.
Great, thank you, Sally. It's a good afternoon, it looks like, with a lot of folks here, and so I'm hoping we can learn a lot together. Let's start with our LinguaFolio scavenger hunt that we put together for you today. We want you to hunt for the answer to these questions by going to the LinguaFolio page at bit.ly/NC-LinguaFolio. There are 5, what we hope are simple questions, but you can find all of the answers on the NC LinguaFolio page that you go to. Our 5 questions are, what is LinguaFolio and what 3 purposes does it serve? Which state standards is LinguaFolio aligned to? How many parts does LinguaFolio have and what are they called? What kind of LinguaFolio classroom materials are available and in what formats? And what additional resources are available for LinguaFolio? So we're going to leave this slide up, and we want you to go over to the website and find the answers to all of these questions and be ready to share them as we go through them quickly to check your answers and understanding. Again, you may know some of these already if you're familiar with LinguaFolio and have been implementing it for some time, but be sure you know where to find that information on the web pages, just in case you need to share it with a colleague who's new to LinguaFolio. We'll give you about 7 minutes or so to do that. Go ahead and find those answers, and then we'll be back with you to talk about them together. We see a few people have asked for the link on the screen for the LinguaFolio scavenger hunt. So that is in the chat box. Everyone can just click on that and go automatically. It is http://bit.ly/NC LinguaFolio. So it should be in the chat box now and you can go directly to it. I've been told there might be some problems with the link, so I'm going to go ahead and put the full link, not the shortened URL that we had before, to help everyone out. We apologize for that. I'm not quite sure why it's not working. but we're putting the direct link in, and you can use that as well. No worries, it's in the chat box. Let's take a few more minutes to finish up our work with the scavenger hunt. We appreciate those of you who are putting the answers into the questions box, but you don't have to do that. Just find the answers for yourself, because we're going to go over them here in a minute together. I'm seeing some people start to post in the questions box that they're done. That's good. Let's take another minute and finish up our work with the scavenger hunt. All right, well, we hope you've had time to find all the answers. We're going to go over the questions together and discuss a little bit about what we know about this and what's posted on the web page, and maybe some additional details that could be of interest to us when we think about using LinguaFolio across North Carolina. So let's go ahead and look at each question individually. We'll start with, what is LinguaFolio? And you know, like all teachers, sometimes we have long questions that we have to break into a couple of parts. So question 1A is, what is LinguaFolio? And you see 5 different options. I'll let you read through those. And then I'm going to launch the poll question so that you can tell us what answer you found to the question is, what is LinguaFolio? All right, I'll launch that now. Please go ahead and click in your answer just like you did in the poll questions before. All right, go ahead and put in the answer you found for what is LinguaFolio. Almost got everyone indicating their answer, so we'll just finish up here in about 5 seconds. All right, we're going to close that out, share the results, and it looks like almost everyone, over 90%, found the right answer. LinguaFolio is a proficiency-based, student-centered formative assessment tool. As you know, we indicated earlier in the broadcast that we will have this slide deck available for you to use locally. So we have also set it up so that we have a slide that shows the correct answer in case you want to use this same LinguaFolio scavenger hunt with these questions. So LinguaFolio is proficiency based, which is great because our standards in North Carolina for language learning are also proficiency based. LinguaFolio is also student centered. LinguaFolio belongs to the student. And so it travels with the student as they go from course to course or school to school, learning the different languages that they're interested in. And finally, it's a formative assessment tool, which means it's designed to inform instruction, to provide feedback for the teacher on what needs to be taught and retaught, but also for students to self-assess and see where they are with their learning. That's what a formative assessment tool is. So the good news about LinguaFolio for all teachers is that because it's formative assessment, there's no grading involved. This is all about the student tracking their growth and proficiency with their language learning, and we as teachers being able to use that information as we look through their LinguaFolio and help inform our instruction, and also help our students set goals and things like that for their own individual language learning as we personalize learning in language classrooms. All right, so if we've got a 1A, what is LinguaFolio? You know what 1B is. It's the second part of that first question from the scavenger hunt. What three purposes does LinguaFolio serve? So this is a check all that apply, obviously, because you've got to find three here. So I will go ahead and launch that question. And you can put in the answer that you found to what three purposes does LinguaFolio serve. All right, we just have about 5 more seconds to finish up the answers. Tell us what you found for what three purposes LinguaFolio serves. All right, let's close out our voting and share with you what people said. And once again, we're good at our scavenger hunt. The vast majority of you found, in fact, those three purposes that LinguaFolio serves. So I'll go ahead and show you our slide. LinguaFolio empowers learners to manage their own language learning. Remember, we talked about how it's a student-centered formative assessment tool, so it belongs to the student, but it also encourages them and ultimately empowers them to think about their language learning, the pace they're going, and what skill areas or domains they need to work more on, and what ones they have real strengths in. So they manage their own language learning in this way, which answers the question for them always, why are we learning this, teacher? Automatically, because now they know, because they're learning a language and they can see where they need to go with it. Another purpose of LinguaFolio is to facilitate language learning in and outside the classroom. Of course, we want our students to practice their language and be in the target language they're learning when they're in our classrooms. That's very important. But also, when they're outside the classroom, especially with social media today, they may be able to do additional language learning. Think for a moment about things like apps that help students focus on language learning, or internet connections where they can talk to or chat with in writing almost anyone in the world. You may even have connections to your classroom where you have ePals or something like that, or even connections to other language learning environments in your own school or community where they're actually learning their language outside the classroom as well as inside your classroom. So that's one of the purposes LinguaFolio serves. And finally, LinguaFolio provides a place for learners to collect evidence showing their growth. We mentioned before that part of LinguaFolio is some self-assessment about proficiency in different skill areas, but along with that self-assessment goes evidence that's tied to each statement that students say that they can do in a language, so that the students have proof that they are, in fact, advancing in their language learning. This place for collecting evidence is kind of like a portfolio. That's why the name LinguaFolio includes folio. But also this can be done either in paper, electronically on Word documents, or now with the new LinguaFolio Online or LFO app, it can be done with our online tool that we have. So there's always a place for learners to collect their evidence showing their growth in their language learning. All right, question number 2. Which state standards is LinguaFolio aligned to? Go ahead and share with us in the poll what the answer to this question is that you found. All right, it looks like almost everyone's voted. Let's go ahead and get in those last votes. Let's take about 5 more seconds. I think we're getting faster on our polls, which is good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close out the poll. And share the results. It's hard to fool this crowd, Sally. You are correct that our that LinguaFolio is aligned to our state standards in world languages, the World Language Essential Standards, as well as our English language development standards. So let's take a closer look at that. Here's the slide with the answers. LinguaFolio is designed for all language learning environments. And so obviously our English language development standards that are used in ESL classrooms are aligned with it, and our World Language Essential Standards that are used to teach languages other than English, or what we used to call foreign languages, are also aligned to it. Some of you, I noticed, checked off English Language Arts standard course of study, which I think is a natural thing to think, but really LinguaFolio is focused on second language learning. So English Language Arts, as you know, is for first languages, and so they do not necessarily use LinguaFolio. You could, in fact, use LinguaFolio to track your learning of English or whatever your first language is, obviously. But the way our standards are arranged and what we're going for in our standards looks a little bit, things a little bit differently than language development, like we see in the English Language Development Standards and our World Language Essential Standards. So those are the 2 sets of state standards that LinguaFolio is aligned to. Question number 3, how many parts does LinguaFolio have and what are they called? And this one we did not break into 2 parts, so we'll go ahead and launch that so you can answer it or tell us what answers you found. How many parts does LinguaFolio have and what are they called? All right, go ahead and get in your answer that you found during the scavenger hunt. I'm going to make sure everyone has a chance to get their answer in. We'll take about 5 more seconds to let that happen. All right, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to close and share our results. And once again, the majority of you found the exact right answer. LinguaFolio has 3 parts: the biography, the dossier, and the passport. Sometimes the passport is called the global profile, but generally you'll see biography, dossier, and passport. And here is the slide, of course, with that correct answer if you want to use it locally. We will be spending some time in this broadcast talking about those 3 parts of LinguaFolio and how you can access them in the different versions or formats that they're available for free. All right, question number 4. What kind of LinguaFolio classroom materials are available and in what formats? So please take a look, and remember, all LinguaFolio materials are available for free in North Carolina. All right, almost everyone's voted. We'll take about 5 more seconds and finish up. All right, thank you for voting. Once again, I will say you were very successful in your scavenger hunt in finding the correct answers. There are LinguaFolio classroom materials available for ESL and world languages, and they are available in formats like LinguaFolio Online or LFO, both the website and the app, and PDF versions and Word versions of LinguaFolio files. We'll be looking at all of those today and seeing where they are on the web page and on different web pages and links so that you have access to that and you can use the LinguaFolio in whatever format you prefer. All right, last question. What additional resources are available for LinguaFolio? So please take a look at that. And I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll here in a moment, and you can show us the answers you found for what additional resources are available for LinguaFolio. All right, get your last votes in or your sharing of your responses you found in the scavenger hunt. We'll close out this poll in about 5 seconds. All right, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close and share the answers. Now, I will admit this may be a bit of a trick question because you could probably answer that all of these resources are available somewhere if you look far enough on the internet. We were just asking what additional resources are available for LinguaFolio off of the NC LinguaFolio webpage that we have access to. So let's take a look at that and see what we've got. So based on that, there is in fact national LinguaFolio information on the NACESFL website. And NACESFL is the National Council of State Supervisors for Languages. It's the professional organization for people like myself at departments of education who are responsible for world languages. NACESFL actually created LinguaFolio and shares it as a national product for all teachers and language learners. And of course, we in North Carolina make that available to you in a variety of ways to make sure it stays free for our North Carolina learners. There's also links on our NC LinguaFolio webpage for research on LinguaFolio from various publications that you're probably familiar with, like the Language Educator from ACTFL, our national professional organization, as well as other journals and magazines for language educators. And there's research on LinguaFolio from various dissertations including some dissertations that were done here in North Carolina by our own educators who went back and decided to pursue their doctorate and focus on LinguaFolio in their research. All right, well, thank you for playing along with us on the scavenger hunt. We hope you've learned something and that this was an interesting way to hear a little bit about the history of LinguaFolio, as well as to start looking at what's available on our NC LinguaFolio webpage for you. We're going to turn now and let you talk a little bit. We've talked a lot, and that's fine, but you probably want to hear somebody else, including the voice of experience. So our question for you is, what has your past experience been with LinguaFolio projects, pilots, and training here in North Carolina? And when we say past experience, we're referencing specifically prior to 2015. You saw on our agenda slide that our work with LinguaFolio started in 2005 in North Carolina. So we're asking you about the first 10 years of LinguaFolio work in North Carolina, the first decade of that. We've got some visuals of things we did during those first 10 years here in North Carolina. And I know by looking at our attendance list that some of you on the line today were part of that work, those projects, those pilots, and that training. So we had things like the 5-state pilot. And that's the first little icon you see with the globe and the outline of the 5 states. Those are, of course, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Kentucky. They were involved in that 5-state pilot as LinguaFolio was first launched in the United States. We also had an ESL LinguaFolio project in 2008 to 2010, and that was what added our ESL LinguaFolio statements and made sure that all of our language learners in North Carolina were in fact part of our community that could use LinguaFolio. We also had for a time eLinguaFolio, an online version of LinguaFolio here in North Carolina that has since been replaced. And we had LinguaFolio training at places like conferences, workshops, districts, and even through distance learning prior to 2015, which means we were doing distance learning in a very different way than we do it today. We had some events and things that you may have been involved in. We had something called a carousel event for LinguaFolio in 2012, where a number of teachers shared what they do and how they implement LinguaFolio in their classrooms. And then we were creating the LinguaFolio training modules during that time. Those were created in North Carolina originally, but are now shared on the NSTESFL website nationally. So I'll stop for a minute. What I'd like for you to do is answer that question. What has your past experience prior to 2015 been with LinguaFolio? And if you raise your hand, I'll unmute you to just share out what your experience has been. And I see some of you on here today have a lot of experience, so I hope you'll raise your hand and share. Maria, I see your hand raised. Maria Vargas, I should specify. We have several Marias on the line. Maria Vargas. Maria, you're unmuted. Please share with us what your experience has been with LinguaFolio.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. I unfortunately have no experience with LinguaFolio, and would like to have some experience with it.
Well, you're in the right place because that's what we're going to talk about today. So that's good. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Ellen Hart, I see you raising your hand. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. What's your experience been?
Hi, I am Ellen Hart. Hopefully you can hear me okay. And I work with the North Carolina Virtual Public School. And when we first started developing some world language courses back in 2008, 9, I believe it was, Anne-Marie, we actually incorporated some LinguaFolio at the very beginning. We were actually putting PDFs and working that way with it. But then when the eLinguaFolio started coming around, I don't know what year that was, that might have been before 2015, I can't remember. We incorporated that in our courses as well. Of course, once that eLinguaFolio went away, we're looking at other ways we can get it back in our courses right now.
Mm-hmm. And that's good. You are correct. eLinguaFolio was prior to 2015. It was started technically in 2010. And now it, of course, has been replaced by LFO, LinguaFolio Online. So, yeah. All right. I see Betsy Burton has her hand raised. And Betsy, by the way, I don't want to give away everything she's probably going to talk about, but I know she was involved in our ESL LinguaFolio work from the start. And so Betsy's joining us by phone, so I have just sent her the PIN number, so I have to type in so she can share with us. Go ahead, Betsy, when you're ready. Oh,
there you go.
I see that Betsy has lost audio, but she will be working to get that back. I can share a little bit about the ESL LinguaFolio. I don't want to steal any of her thunder, and I hope she'll be able to share with us herself here in just a moment. But I will say that what we decided to do in 2008 in North Carolina was to create LinguaFolio for ESL classrooms. And specifically what we needed to change were the self-assessment checklist, or the can-do statements, because the can-do statements were, first of all, aligned to the actual proficiency scale, which we use in the World Language Essential Standards for language learning. But our ESL counterparts use the Teachers of English to Speakers of Other Language, or TESOL, proficiency scale. So we want to make sure that those statements reflected their proficiency scale because of how that's used in their English language development standards. And then also we wanted to make sure that those can-do statements were appropriate for when you're learning English as a second language in this country. There's a lot of work around content-based English, so the language of, let's say, math, or the language of science, or the language of social studies. And it was critical that we had those components in LinguaFolio for our English learners, so that it was clear that's how their language learning was progressing, and they could, again, clearly make sure that they were empowered to manage their own language learning and know where they were going with their language learning. In the meantime, we also discovered that some of our ESL can-do statements also fit really well in dual language immersion, or DLI, environments, where students are learning the standards like in science or social studies or math, but they're learning in a language other than English. And so now, as of this year, we have 200 DLI programs across the state, K-12. And so that's really important, because that means that when a student is learning a language in that environment even, they can still use LinguaFolio to manage their own language learning and progress and grow over time. All right, so I'm going to pause there for a moment and see if Betsy is able to join us. I also see another participant on the line today. Diana Janica says she does not have microphone access in her new computer for now, so she has shared her answer to what has your past experience been with LinguaFolio in the question box, and I'll go ahead and read that for you. She said that she had experience with LinguaFolio on paper initially, and then later she used the online LinguaFolio and explored the website a bit herself. She really started using it with her students when she participated in the pilot of the LinguaFolio Online a few years ago, and her students loved it. And by the way, loved it is in all capital letters, so you know what that means in online speak. They were really into it, and they really found it engaging and interactive. And she said now the improvements that we have made to it have even made it more powerful for the students' experience.
I think Betsy is back online.
Oh, good. So it looks like Betsy is back now, and we will unmute her. All right, Betsy, you are unmuted. Please share.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, go on ahead.
Okay, well, I was involved with the ESL part of LinguaFolio, I think, when we were first planning it, but Basically, what I would like to say is how I've used it in different ways depending upon the way my job position changed. Well, at first I had a class that I saw every day, and I was really able to use many more parts of LinguaFolio and experiment with having that be a part of my classroom routine. I found the greatest growth that way, of course. But since I've had different schools now and different grade levels, what I've done with it has changed. And last year I used it mostly for developing speaking because I had some kids that wouldn't talk at all. And then I have this place at my classroom that's like a little closet. They didn't want me to hear them, but they would go in there and plan what they were going to say, and they would talk on LinguaFolio. They made all these recordings, and I really found that brought them out. I've used it with writing. They love to upload the things they've done, and they found that they could use work for other classrooms as evidence, and so they enjoyed that a lot. So it's been, even though I couldn't use it the way I did when I had the regular classroom setting, it has really been, it's played some part in my lessons with all my schools at different levels. I have not used it with the really young kids, but it's been something that I found sort of a thread throughout what I was doing. And basically, the thing it did mostly for me as a teacher is help me to give the students more control. They would choose, at first I would choose the goals that I wanted them to work on, but pretty much as time went on, I just turned it over to them, and then they would plan things and decide what they wanted to do next, and that's when it really got powerful. So I found that it's like you said, as a formative assessment helped me listening to them to see what I need to work on, but it helped them to determine what did they want to work on, how did they want to prove it. So I think it really expanded both of our capacities as teacher and as educator and learner. So that's how my experience with it. I don't think I need to go into the different things that I've done as in the time period, but I think the power is in what it did with the students and how it helped me to grow in the way I was teaching language, the English language to them.
And that's good to hear, Betsy, because it is interesting to think about how you can use this across different types of teaching assignments with different groups of students. I know many of us have experienced as language teachers, things like, being a teacher on a cart where you're going in different places or going multiple schools sometimes, or you have many, many students. I know when I was teaching high school, I had multiple levels of the language I taught. And so I had well over 100 students.
Wow.
And, across
Yeah.
the
Good old days, right?
Yes. But, like what you're saying, because LinguaFolio really empowers the students to manage their language learning, they love that. And then they start to do the kinds of things we want to see them do, like more speaking and that kind of thing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And it really changes language learning for them and really makes life easier as a teacher because it's sort of working smarter, not harder.
It does. Once you start turning it over to them, it does. It's just I found that it really helped me so much. I can't imagine having 100 students. That's great. I know people do, but I can see it. I mean, I don't use it with every single student, but I use it with more and more students and more regularly. So anyhow, I just thought it was something that I can't imagine doing without it now. Anyhow.
Well, the good news is we don't have to do without it. We're talking here about our past experience, sort of our first 10 years with LinguaFolio, but LinguaFolio continues to change and grow and become, I think, a better tool even than what we had in the past for our language learning environments. So we're going to go ahead on to the next opportunity to talk here. And this is our present with LinguaFolio, if you will. So, and I do again want to ask, how has your present experience been with LinguaFolio? Again, projects, pilots, and training in North Carolina. And just to name a few that have happened since 2016, so we're entering now our second decade of LinguaFolio. You know, we've had things like the transition to the LinguaFolio Online LFO from eLinguaFolio. We were the first place in the country to have an online version of LinguaFolio, the eLinguaFolio, and it was first created. It was very cutting edge, but after about 7 or 8 years, it wasn't so cutting edge anymore. And another tool being created by the University of Oregon Castles, which we'll talk about a little bit later. They're a language resource center, and they had created LFO. And so we said, you know, as a state, well, we would love to do LFO as the online tool, online version of the formative assessment tool called LinguaFolio. But because we have some things in North Carolina, like our ESL can-do statements, we want to make sure those are included. And so as a state, we contracted with the University of Oregon to make sure we could have LFO for teachers that would have all of the things we had grown to expect in LinguaFolio in North Carolina, but also so that it could remain free, because with any kind of online tool like that, of course there is a cost. And we had paid for eLinguaFolio and its creation as well as its dissemination. We'd paid for that with a series of federal and state grants to support that work. And so now with LFO for NC, and that's what we call it, it's the same LFO everyone has, of course, in the country, but ours is customized because it is available for free to our teachers here in North Carolina and their students who want to use the online version. We do that through a series of funding possibilities here at the state level and make it available. Also, during this time of 2016 to 2019, we've had several pilots, a limited pilot and extended pilot with LFO for NC, making sure it is what it needs to be and that we have the right kinds of tutorials and instructor and student manuals that help us best. And we also have moved our Introduction to LinguaFolio training, which we used to do face-to-face at conferences and in other ways. We've moved that into a Canvas course so it can be done online. And we're in fact still working with that into the future, which is what we're going to talk about. But I'll pause here and see if anyone wants to add anything about what their present experience from 2016 through 2019 has been with LinguaFolio projects, pilots, and training. So once again, I'll take a look at our participant list and see who wants to share. And I'm looking for raised hands, or if you don't want to share or you don't have a mic, you can go ahead and just put that in the question box, what you want to share. And by the way, I just did everyone's hands down. I hadn't put hands down before. So please go ahead and raise your hand again if you want to share for 2016 through 2019 about your present experience with LinguaFolio. It looks like everyone's gotten a little shy right now. All right, Betsy, I'll unmute you again. Go ahead.
Okay. I like the university, the lingo for the LFO. I like that we've been doing. I think it's concise, but it also has a wide variety of things that the students can do. They like the way it's set up. They like the formats for uploading evidence. So I've enjoyed that. I guess that's about it. I mean, I did the eLinguaFolio, I've done the paper version, I've done all of it, and we got something out of everything. But I think that's the one that they have really become more involved with, that they enjoyed the most.
That's good to hear, because, you know, we really wanted to make the switch to LFO because we thought it would be very engaging to students. We thought it was much better than eLinguaFolio that we had been using. And we're always happy to hear that this is something that's really helped connect with students. I see also Maria Omarad is adding in the question box that she did the pilot, the LFO pilot with her students, and the students felt great uploading their work on their app. Also, she thinks LinguaFolio is a great tool for showing off work to people like parents and so forth. And it's a good way to show evidence of growth as well to the students themselves, as well as to other stakeholders like, again, those parents or even administrators and other folks. We also have somebody who said, I haven't had much experience with LinguaFolio, so I'm excited to learn. And that is one of the things we're going to talk about for the future of LinguaFolio. Before we leave this, though, I do want to mention Betsy's been sharing a lot with us, and I want to mention her students for a moment. When we were first doing the LinguaFolio training modules, which we are now, of course, moving into Canvas, so we're going to talk about that in detail here. One of the groups we interviewed was Betsy's students, and they were in middle school at the time. They were the only students who wanted to be interviewed as a group, and they shared how powerful LinguaFolio had been in helping them gain control of their learning and really set goals, even in other classes that they were in, not just necessarily in their language learning classes. And in fact, what we also know about that group is that all of them who were interviewed or in that video, the LinguaFolio training, graduated from high school. Some of them were the first people in their families ever to graduate high school and have gone on to college. And so we celebrate those successes whenever we have them with students, but especially when we know that language learning really gave them a pathway forward to think about what they could achieve academically and to go to where they wanted to be with their learning. So with that, I'll go on to our LinguaFolio for the future. Let's talk about for a moment, what is your future, what is our future from 2019 going forward going to be with LinguaFolio projects, pilots, and training in North Carolina? So we have some things to share with you today. First and foremost, LFO is for all in North Carolina. We mentioned that LinguaFolio materials for your classroom, whatever version they're in, PDF or Word, or even the online tool LFO, are available for free to our North Carolina educators. And so we want to emphasize that again, but also to say that LFO is for all, meaning all language learners too. So world language learners, ESL learners, and of course, our dual language immersion language learners.
Okay, Anne-Marie, thank you. I'm just happy reading the questions right now. We have in the comments Maria Heath and Jessie Lotto. They both have said they don't have a lot of experience with LinguaFolio, but they're very excited to bring this to their schools. And just a shout out to Jessie. Jessie is one of the EL specialists in the state, and she supports the National Heritage Academy. So it's a large group of charter schools in the state. So we're really excited that she's here and she's learning about these opportunities that we are offering. So LinguaFolio, our future. So we have been working on a Canvas course. Since we adopted Canvas at DPI, we created some courses, and we decided to move all the LinguaFolio modules to a Canvas course, and we have offered this, and we have had some different participants. And currently we're offering this, you sign up and then you complete the work and then we send you the certificate. But we are thinking with new opportunities that we have had at ESL Title III and World Languages, sponsoring teachers to participate in different workshops and conferences, that some of them will gonna be helping us improve this LinguaFolio, introduction to LinguaFolio. So we're going to move it, and it's going to be a self-paced course offered statewide, and we're going to put it in Mises, so all teachers will be able to access these materials at any time, and they will be able to work on these, use the materials with their groups. If they're having PLCs, they will be able to adopt all that and be able to use the resources. So that's what we want. And we also know that we have some private schools and higher ed institutions who are also interested in using LinguaFolio. So we are hoping we can share this in the Canvas Commons as a public course that they can use and they can access, and then their students will benefit from this. So this is the future, and we're really happy about this. And all the experience we had during the pilot kind of supported all that we're doing now and the changes and all what we want to do. And you guys being here today is part of that process. And we hope that if you participate and you are awarded a sponsorship, you're going to be part of that process moving forward with LinguaFolio using Canvas LMS.
Great. And I do see a couple of comments in the questions box saying there are some folks here who are brand new teachers and are eager to learn. So this Introduction to LinguaFolio Canvas course may be for you. We are trying to improve it with some of these sponsorship projects. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We also want to make it available as a self-paced course statewide, which would be accessible to all of our districts and charter school teachers. But also we want to make it available in what's called Canvas Commons, a public course, as Satley said, so that our private schools could access it, our higher education institutes could access it, even outside of North Carolina. And that would also mean that our schools here could also access it and make it part of their own Canvas learning opportunities, because this will be a self-paced course in the statewide system, but someone might want to do it as an instructor-led course or as work with a professional learning community like a PLC or department. And with it in Canvas Commons, you would have those options as well. So we want to make that training as flexible as possible and get that out to you. I see a couple questions about how can we access the Canvas course. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit, so please hold on those questions. I also see someone who said they came across LinguaFolio materials 4 years ago, and they've used the can-do statements with their ESL students as a tool to set specific goals. That's always great to hear, although we would encourage everyone to use LinguaFolio in its full breadth. So just using the can-do statements means you're missing out on some of the other parts of LinguaFolio and the things it can do for your students and their learning. So you might want to learn more about that, and then go ahead and continue to add pieces of LinguaFolio in, or parts of LinguaFolio in, that can really make a difference with your students. Well, we're noticing the tide, and we want to share some things with you to make sure you get all the information you need. So we're going to go ahead and move forward. And we got to another poll question. So we're going to ask you, what kind of LinguaFolio resources do you use or want to use? And this is about what works best for you. So do you want to use PDF, Word, LFO, that kind of thing? So we'll go ahead and run that poll question, and then you can tell us what kinds of things you'd like to use in your classroom with LinguaFolio. All right, it looks like we're getting very fast at voting. Go ahead and put in your last votes about what kind of materials you'd like to use with LinguaFolio in your classroom. All right, votes are in. I'm going to close our poll and share that. It looks like you pretty much want to use about everything, which is great because there are many options available to you, and we would never want to restrict you as a teacher. We've had people ask us about things like, will we eventually move to LFO only? And the answer is no, because there are teachers who prefer to use Word or PDF versions of LinguaFolio. There are also schools that don't have enough computer access, either at school or at students' homes, to be able to use LFO, unfortunately. Now, there are many who do, and that's great. As you can see from our results, we have people choosing to use all kinds of different LinguaFolio resources. So let's go ahead and take a look at where those are at on the website so that you can use them. So the next part of our broadcast is looking at our LinguaFolio homepage and what's available there. And so what we want you to know is that whether you're an ESL teacher or a world language teacher or both, you can get all of your LinguaFolio materials from our LinguaFolio homepage, and that's on that link we were at before. It is on the NCDPI World Languages Google site, as you see there at the top, and it's under the Resources tab if you ever need to find it without the bit.ly link. That Resources tab is outlined in orange, and you just have to mouse over that, and it takes you right to it. So let's go out on the website and explore. Here is our live website. Obviously, the first thing you notice, that Resources tab, again, if you mouse over it, it pulls up several things, and you can go right to the LinguaFolio site. There's also other things it goes to that you can explore later as teachers. But there, of course, is our very bold statement about from our LinguaFolio Scavenger Hunt about, what is LinguaFolio? It's a proficiency-based, student-centered formative assessment tool. So all of that is explained there. The shortened URL that we used is also there in case you need to take this and share it with anyone. It goes on to explain that LinguaFolio consists of 3 parts, and it gives a brief description of each of those. Notice on the right-hand side, we have our current LinguaFolio logo. So if you're looking for materials and wonder if you've got the latest information, you do. If you see that LinguaFolio, Show the World What You Can Do, or the NCDPI LFO logo. So that's how you can know. Here, towards the bottom of the page, we have resources for you to explore about implementing or researching LinguaFolio. We have 3 main areas, as you can see. There are classroom materials for North Carolina, and with that, there's a page just for ESL classroom materials for North Carolina, a page just for world languages classroom materials for North Carolina, and then, of course, our LFO page for classroom materials for North Carolina. Next to that, we have the professional development section. We're going to link up the information about the LinguaFolio Canvas course there, and there will be some other things we'll add with professional development that we're going to ask you about later. And then finally, we have some additional resources that are things like the National LinguaFolio website and the research on LinguaFolio that you can access that we talked about in the scavenger hunt. We're going to go for right now from this main web page, although I will tell you there are slides that are covering everything we see here, so that again, if you need to use those slides for local professional development, you always can. I like to go in order. So under classroom materials for North Carolina, I'm going to go to the English as a second language materials first, just so you can see that. And I will tell you that the ESL and world languages pages for classroom materials for North Carolina are very similar in nature. Let's click on the ESL. You know you're in the right place because it says LinguaFolio for ESL. And it starts out very basically about what LinguaFolio is. You see the latest logo that we're using nationally. And it says that you can feel free to download each part below and or its components for use in your classroom. So we do see the biography, the dossier, and the passport as we would expect to see. Those are parts of LinguaFolio. We have links from those pictures of each part, as well as underneath them, that's underlined, the hyperlinks, go out to those materials that you can download. If you download these materials here, they are in PDF. So if we click on the biography here, it takes us out to a PDF version of the latest biography, and it's the entire biography, which is several pages long. But let's go ahead and continue down to see what else is there. So those are the basic materials. And then we have the biography components, because we want to make those available for you in both PDF and Word in case you want to break those apart. What you see here is that the biography components include the How Do I Learn assessment, and many teachers like to start with that with their students because it really helps them see how their students are learning the language. There's also a component called Intercultural Encounter Reflections, where students think about their learning about culture in the language. And there's an intercultural experience summary as well that's very similar. There's also a language activities list where students can think about how they can practice their language, again, empowering them to look at things like, do they practice the language in film or on social media or with their friends, or how do they study the language, all of that. There's a learning inventory that looks carefully at the kinds of learning they're doing with the language, and then there's a progress report to sort of sum everything up. So as you can see, those are in a Google Drive, and so you can just jump right in and download the PDF versions or the Word versions from the Google Drive, and then you can use those in your classroom as you need to, or even on a website if you're using the Word versions that students can type into. Part of the biography, of course, is the can-do statements, and we have the Necessful Actful can-do statements from 2017 and 2013 posted for you. These are the self-assessment components of the biography in LinguaFolio. There's a note about how to use LinguaFolio can-do statements. There's a document about that, and you may want to read that carefully. If you're using them for self-assessment, that's especially important to read because it has a lot of valuable information about how to do that and how to work with students to help them understand self-assessment, as well as documenting their learning with evidence with their self-assessment statements. There's a link also directly to the Necessful Actful can-do statements webpage, which has a lot of details. And then there's a note about how the can-do statements for world languages from 2013 and 2017 are posted here, as well as the can-do statements for ESL programs that were originally developed in North Carolina. Before we get into can-do statements, of course, we also have our proficiency grids, and this gives you an overall picture of our proficiency scales. We have a number of these because some of them have been adapted. You see a note there showing that, of course, we use the actual proficiency scale in the United States, that is our national organization scale. But the actual proficiency scale is used primarily for career purposes and educational purposes. So on these proficiency grids, we also have alignment to other or correspondence to other proficiency scales, like the Common European Framework of Reference scale, the CEFR scale that's used in Europe and Asia. We have the Interagency Language Roundtable scale, and that's the ILR scale. And that's used in the United States also, but for diplomacy and military operations to describe language proficiency. And then, of course, we have our TESOL scale for ESL that's used nationally. And so you see there a list of and links to those grids, starting with the National LinguaFolio grid that's quite extensive. The ones that we have created for the North Carolina Standard Course of Study, or SCOS, for English Language Development Standards and World Language Central Standards are one-pagers. And so, for example, since we're on the ESL page, I'll just click on that one. The grid for the English Language Development Standards shows those I can or can do statements across the different proficiency levels. And if you notice at the bottom, they're actually arranged as the TESOL scale, so those 6 different proficiency levels. In addition, you do see the Common European Framework of Reference correspondences on that one as well. We have a number of others. Those mostly have to do with world language programs as described in our World Language Essential Standards, but I'll let you explore those if you want. We have them for alphabetic and logographic languages. Logographic languages would be languages like Chinese and Japanese. We have them for classical languages like Latin, and we have them for visual languages like American Sign Language or ASL. Of course, alphabetic languages as well, with the one in the middle, are for languages like French, German, Arabic, etc. that all have an alphabet. So following that, we have those can-do statements for ESL, and again, we have them in both PDF and Word, so you can use them as you need to and in different ways. They are arranged by proficiency level, as you see here, and as a packet with all of them, with all 6 checklists as it says. And the same thing in Word. Then what follows that is our 2013 Necessful Actful can-do statements. If you would like those, they are arranged by proficiency level, numbered sequentially, and then by communication mode, and also as a packet with all of them together. Finally, we have the 2017 Necessful Actful can-do statements. We do still post the 2013 because we know a lot of you are still using those in your classrooms. You're welcome to use the 2017 can-do statements as well. And the 2017 Necessful Actful can-do statements is what are in LFO. So those would be available there already. But those are only available in Word and PDF by proficiency level, not in some of the other arrangements. So we want to put everything there so you can choose what you want to use in your classroom. So that's our ESL resources for LinguaFolio. And I'll flip back to our main NC LinguaFolio page and look at the World Languages resources real quick. That page is quite similar, of course, to what we just saw, except that the focus is world languages now. And so once again, we have the links to the 3 parts of LinguaFolio: biography, dossier, and passport. We do have those biography components again because regardless of what language you're learning or what context, we all use the same biography components. And then we have our can-do statements, all of the proficiency grids again, and then the 2013, the sociological can-do statements, and the 2017. So once again, everything posted there for your use to decide what would be best in your classroom. So like I said, we're going to pop back to the slide set right now. We have all of that on slides as well, should you need to use it. And we'll just kind of go through those real quick and catch up to where we need to be, because we did want to show you that we have these available for you for training so that you can link out to them and use them as you need to. And that brings us to our LFO for NC homepage, which is a special spot underneath our classroom materials for North Carolina, in which Sally is going to talk to us a little bit about what is there and what LFO is and how it works, and a little bit different, let's say, from Word or PDF versions of LinguaFolio. And again, this is what our page is. Now remember, for the LFO, it has its own bit.ly link, as you see there, bit.ly/LFONC page. And so what I'll do is just jump out there really quickly, and Sally's going to take you on a tour of what we have.
We can continue with that.
Oh, I guess Sally would like to continue with our slides because she has some information to share with you before we would go out to that page. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. And we're running out of time, and I want to cover all the information that we have. Okay, so we have the LFO for NC website, and Marie was sharing the link, and you will have access to this, so you can explore on your own time and check every single thing that we have there. But I think with the other resources that she just shared for ESL and world languages, you're going to have a lot of fun checking those resources, because now we're going to talk about the online version. But what we recommend is that you explore those materials first, because then you're going to be familiar. For those of you who have said that you are new to LinguaFolio, if you go through all those different resources that we have in our website, ESL or world languages, you will understand better how it looks in your classroom. How are the possibilities? How are you going to be able to use it? And how are you growing that success for your students when you're using LinguaFolio before you go to the online part? Because the online part is more, it's brief, it's concrete, it's very specific, and it's fun. But if you have that fundamental piece when you go through the other materials, then it's easier for you as an educator selecting all the different resources in the online platform. So we have LFO for NC. So LFO, they design all the different resources, and then NACESFL and ACTFL decided with the University of Oregon to use this and start the online version of LinguaFolio. And they said that this will also offer students the opportunity to set goals based on the can-do statements, track their progress towards accomplishing the statements, and upload work samples to showcase their abilities. In the past, teachers will keep all the documentation and track their portfolios, but now the online version helps you have this evidence online. They will have the opportunity to create the evidence that includes that is within that portfolio, and they can do it in a regular basis when they are at school or outside the school. So that's the beauty of this online piece, but it's always tied to those fundamental pieces of the other sections of LinguaFolio. So this is how it will look when you have access to the website, the platform. This is how it will look. You will have the logo, and these are the colors that distinguish the North Carolina LinguaFolio LFO. And then we have, if we go to the next slide, this is the team that has contributed to this, designing the different materials and putting all the can-do statements and making sure that everything is aligned with what NACESFL and ACTFL have developed. So we have Stephanie Nye, Julie Kites, Carl Bernstein, Mandy Glitter. So they are the LFO support team. And this is important. We've had their email here because once you have access to the online platform, any single technical detail, the support will be from this email. Sometimes in the past with the pilot, teachers will email Anne-Marie and me, and what we will do, email them, because they are the ones in the back end who are able to troubleshoot and help you with anything that is not working in the platform for your teacher account or student accounts. So it's important that you keep in mind that this is going to be your tech support once you have access to the online version. So anytime with technical difficulties, the LFO support team will be the one to contact. And you can even send an email and copy us, so we make sure that we keep track of these issues, and we help the team in Castles make sure that that's working and everything is in place for you. So now we have in the next slide, there are two different options when we go to LFO for NC. So we have the LinguaFolio Online, that is the platform that we just saw how it looks. And then we have the LFO To Go app. So I want you to focus on the LinguaFolio Online, because this one is a platform that you will review on your laptop, and you will be able to create and access the teacher account and the student accounts. You will be able to assign the different can-do statements, set all the goals, and create everything for your students. So the initial state, once you start working with LinguaFolio Online, is setting all the accounts in this platform. Because if you try to do it in the mobile app, then you will have difficulties. You have to do it first in the platform that is web-based. And then for LFO, the To Go app, something that is very important to keep in mind, that one will only show the student account. So if you are a teacher, you have the option to create a student account, a mock student account for you, so you can practice, you can see what your students will see, but you won't be able to assign tasks or can do statements or check their evidence if you use your teacher account, because that one won't work in the mobile app. So that's something that is very important to keep in mind. And at the beginning, we recommend that you create these two accounts, that you have a student account and a teacher account, so you explore the platform and everything there before you expose your students to this, because then you will be able to troubleshoot to help them, because you are familiar with the platform already. And we also think that it's very beneficial to explore and have both. If you are a district that uses a device that is Android or iOS, then you can have the option to practice with those two before you try to enroll all your students in the platform, which is very important. And what is neat about the LFO for NC is that now you will have the opportunity to upload the evidence. So every time your students are working towards accomplishing their goals, they can do statements. They can take pictures or videos and upload them as an evidence. They can record an audio right from the device and just have it there so you can check it and maybe share if they're working in a group, because that's something else that you can do in LFO for NC. You can have your individual students working on their account, or you can create groups where they can upload evidence and then work together towards one specific goal that might be the objective that you have in your unit or what you are working with the kids. And also they can upload text. If you are practicing a writing strategy, then they can take pictures and upload this information as well, or upload it as a Word document or a PDF.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the tools that are available for teachers with LFO for NC.
So we have, and all this information is on our website. You will see the instructor tutorial and the student tutorial and the different links, so you will be able to access all this information. So for those of you that are new, remember, we recommend that you go first through the original materials, so you're familiar with the content, and then when you go to the online phase, then it's easier for you, because then you will just need to learn the new interface and see how the can-do statements have been placed and how you can assign them. So our instructor tutorial has 7 different sections, very detailed. They have added links and icons, some pictures, so you can practice, and it's very easy to understand. So we have one of the section is the LFO overview. It will tell you what it is, how it was created, the different standards this is aligned to that we have been talking about. And then you will learn how to sign up and log in, how you create your teacher account first, and how you start adding also your students, the student accounts. Or even if you have, for example, some of you who were participating in the pilot last year, if you need to remove some of the students or add new students that you might have in your school, then you can follow this tutorial and check on number 3, and you will have all the different instructions to do this as you start the new school year with LinguaFolio. We also have a section about how assign the can-do statements. It's very easy, and if we have time at the end, we can explore together. But we want to cover the other parts because it's a lot of information today. But yeah, you can also learn how to upload the evidence, how it works, how it will look for your students, how you can provide feedback for the students, because they upload the materials and the evidence and you can see it, you can add some notes. So they, for example, if they uploaded something that doesn't show that they can do the goal, they haven't accomplished that goal, then you can ask them to upload something new and make different, provide a different evidence. And also number 6 and 7, reviewing the student evidence and resetting passwords. Sometimes you need to change, a kid forgot the password when you started setting the accounts. So it gives you all the information that you need so you know what to do. And remember that these tutorials are available, but you can also send an email to Castles and say, well, I followed the tutorial, I tried, follow all the directions, but it didn't work. And they are always helping. Within 24 hours, they're always giving answers and helping and solving all our issues. So that's something good. And we're going to move to the student tutorial in the next slide. And we recommend that you explore this tutorial first, so you're familiar with it, so you can help your students. But when you have older students, for example, in middle school, high school, or if you're using it with your higher ed students, you can help them. You just give them these tutorials and they will do it. Or you can use it during a class and check the tutorials together and see again the LFO overview, how to sign up and log in to their new account, because you're going to need a joint code and we're going to talk about it later. So it's important that you as the teacher creating their accounts have that information at hand so you can help them. And also you will be able to show them when you check the tutorial how to upload the evidence, how to upload the different versions, if it's audio, text, or an image, or also if they're using different devices, if it's Android or iOS. And we have another couple of tutorials that talk about this. Depending on the operation system that you're using, then you might follow some directions to troubleshoot if you have any difficulties uploading or reviewing some of the evidence that you are uploading. And then finally, the evidence review process. So it gives some details as well for the students, because if they upload something, they might want to check if that's what they want to submit to the teacher, if they might want to add something new. So this tutorial will help them understand that. And now we have some samples of evidence that can be uploaded. I've talked a little bit about this, but some of the samples are on the screen. If you see the bullets, writing samples, such as typed paragraphs of an essay or an email. I know we need to work, for example, for ESL students towards the access. We're helping them build those writing skills. So then we can use these, and then if they upload that information, we can give them some feedback, and that will be something good for them because they can complete this not only in the school, but also at home. And they can share with their parents. So there are a lot of uses there that we can have with this evidence that we're uploading online. and audio samples, such as recording of students introducing themselves or talking about a recent family vacation. And this is important because for ESL, our concern now is that we want to help the kids be ready for the speaking test, since the test changed and now the kids need to do it online, and they're not familiar with these kind of activities where they need to read something and then provide an answer and record the answer. So this would be perfect for them, because then you can set some different activities and they will submit these audio samples. And then you can also provide feedback and help them build these skills as well. And visual files, such as video clip of students performing a skit during a final performance or a media presentation, or a conversation. If they're talking in a group, they might record what they're doing, so then you can keep track of what they're doing in their groups and help them use that academic language that they need if they were not using those technical vocabulary that we expect them and that might help them with their language proficiency.
And Sally's just giving you some great examples from an ESL classroom, but I also want to emphasize that for world languages, you know, a combination of language samples, writing samples, audio samples, visual samples like videos or pictures, digital photos of things that students are doing in class as they learn language are always important. And one of the things that we have heard from teachers about LinguaFolio in general, and certainly about LFO, is that it helps students realize that they need to be building their language skills in all of their domains or skill areas. So it's not just about speaking or just about writing, but in fact, being able to do both and in very different environments or contexts. You'll notice, by the way, that the LFO app is pictured on the right-hand side there. And you can see, obviously, how students would click on different things to upload their different evidences. But also notice at the top that, again, we have access to the necessitable, actful, can-do statements and the ESL statements that we've been using here in North Carolina for a number of years. And so all of that is included in LFO for NC.
Okay, thank you. And we have a screenshot of how it looks when students are uploading their evidence. And it has a different icon, so it's very visual. They will know, even if we have those emerging students or novice students, then in those levels, then you will know the different icons if they want to upload a different media, a video or an audio or some text, or provide a link to the document so they upload their evidence. So the interface is very user-friendly. So it's fun, and I know the ones that were in the pilot last year, they mentioned a lot that their students love this way of doing it because they are used to have a device and now they can use it with a purpose. There is something meaningful because they're learning, they're showing how they can use the language.
And we'll just take a couple questions. We are conscious of our time. We don't want to hold you past 6 o'clock if we can help it. One question we see is, can we use LFO or LinguaFolio for college level students? And I would say the answer to that is absolutely yes. LinguaFolio is for all language learners. And so if you want to use this beyond the K-12 environment, we certainly encourage that. Also keep in mind that since LinguaFolio belongs to the student, as they move from K-12 into college or community college or work or wherever they're going next, LinguaFolio carries with them. And we've heard several stories about how students have taken their LinguaFolio in whatever format they had, and they can go to share that with colleges for placement, for example. They can show that to potential employers about what they can do in the language because they have evidence of the work they've done and the language that they've learned or studied. And so that LinguaFolio stays with the student, whether it's a paper or PDF or a Word version of it or this LFO. So that's something to think about. Specifically, when it comes to our LFO accounts for North Carolina, those are designed for K-20 use. And we do have join codes for everyone K-20. And to a large degree across the public and private continuum of language learning. And so keep that in mind. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about join codes and things like that later on. And we'll have additional information about that in future communications as well. All right, well, up next we have some additional resources, and I'm not going to go into those a lot because we don't have a lot of time left tonight, But I will tell you, obviously, that if you explore those additional resources on the NC LinguaFolio page, one of the first things is the National LinguaFolio site. So there's a quick screenshot of it here that is from the CESFL, as you see. Also, the research component right underneath it's linked is also on the CESFL site. And you'll see there's several different sets of research shown, starting with 2017 and going back chronologically to 2012, so reverse chronological order. Keep in mind that we said there are a lot of things published, so there are articles about the theoretical framework for LinguaFolio. There's articles from publications like The Language Educator and Foreign Language Annals and the Modern Language Journal. So particularly if you're a researcher, you may be interested in those. And there's several dissertations where doctoral students have focused on that, including one recently on North Carolina teachers in a collective case study. So we encourage you to check that out and get more information as you would like. What we wanted to make sure we covered with you tonight is professional development for LinguaFolio, because we know we all want training on how to use LinguaFolio, especially those of you who are brand new to it. And we really want to feature the LinguaFolio training resources that are now available through the CESFL, because these are the online training modules that were originally developed in North Carolina. Of course, we share them nationally. And you see that there are 7 modules that were originally developed, starting with the first one of what is LinguaFolio, then going into building your own LinguaFolio, which we always encourage teachers to do, because if this is something you're going to use with your students, you should have one of your own. But also, language learning is a lifelong endeavor. And as teachers, we are always continuing to build our own proficiency in whatever languages we use. Then there are modules on reflective learning and teaching in an autonomous environment. There's a module on LinguaFolio-like activities. There's a module on the importance of interculturality, or using cultural components or cultural knowledge with your use of language. There's a module on assessing language performance, and there's a module on implementation timeline and setting goals with LinguaFolio in your classroom. So the reason we point that out is because that is exactly what we have used, those LinguaFolio training modules that were originally developed in North Carolina, in our Canvas course. So I'll let Sally take it from there.
Yes, we have developed this Canvas course, and we have had 2 groups for now completing this Canvas course, and we offer 8 modules, and the modules will talk about the different components of LinguaFolio. First, well, what is LinguaFolio, how to build it, and something that we haven't mentioned today, Anne-Marie, and maybe is very valuable, is that we recommend that people, when they want to use LinguaFolio, they try themselves. They complete the first, the dossier, they see the checklist, they try to do it if they learn another language, and it doesn't matter. And it goes along with a question that we have in the question box that says, how early in the introduction of a language can I use LinguaFolio? And it's at any time, because what you're doing with LinguaFolio is you're setting goals. You want the students to progress in the use of language from 0 up to the level that you want them. So if there's a student, a novice student, the novice, mid, or high, maybe novice low level, you want them to progress in that line. So you want that. And if it's an ASL student and the student is a newcomer, recently arrived, in an emerging level, then you want them to progress as well in that continuum. So then you know that you can start there. But if you have a student who is maybe in advanced high level or is bridging, then you can still tell the student, hey, we are using LinguaFolio because this is how you can show what you have learned, how you can use the language, and not only one language, because we have some students that are multilingual, and it's the same for our teachers. You might not have only a first language, you might speak a second or a third language. So we encourage you to do it. But even if you only took a couple of semesters in college or 2 semesters in high school, try to do it and see what you can do with that language that you practice, because that's how you get to understand how LinguaFolio works and how it helps your students be more autonomous and own their learning of the language. So that's something that we really need to mention. And thank you for that question, because that was perfect for that, so we don't forget to mention it. So we have the 8 modules, and we have shared this. Currently, the way people can access these modules is when they sign up, and we're going to see it in the next slide. They sign up, we give them an account, people sign up in this link, that's for now, because we're going to move to having it in my NCED cloud through NISA, so you don't have to go through this double signing on enrollment process. You just go and you find the course and you can complete it at any time. But for now, when you click on the bit.ly/Canvas LF, and all our bit.ly links are case sensitive, so if you don't have the capital C and LF, it might throw you an error. So remember that all our bit.ly links are case sensitive. So when you click on this one, it's a Google form, and you sign up and you say why you want to sign up for this course. You're new, you want a refresh of LinguaFolio, you have used it before but you still want to go back and check, and that's okay. And we review this every 2 weeks, and then once we review and we see that you have signed up, we create an account for you and we send you an email. And this is the email that you will receive. It says course enrollment, and it will be from NCDPI. And if it's, it will say Satli Stocks. I'm the one creating these accounts for now. But the way to access, if we go back to the previous slide, is through my NCED cloud. That portal, when you access NISES or Power School or Power Teacher, then there is where you go and check. So you check this, and some districts have paid for Canvas LMS, and the icon that they have is a red icon. So the icon that we have at NCDPI is blue, so that's something important, because sometimes people think, well, I click and I don't see it in my dashboard. But it's because NCDPI is an independent section for Canvas, and you have to go through the blue one. But once you get the course enrollment email, then you can go through my NCED cloud and then click on the Canvas, the blue icon, and you should see it in the dashboard. And if you don't see it, then just send me an email, and if we go back, you have my email there. And if after 2 weeks you sign up, you haven't received the email, just shoot me an email and say, Satli, I sign up, I really want to complete this and start using LinguaFolio. So then we figure out what's going on and we help you enroll and start the process.
And that's very exciting too, because one of the things we're looking to do soon is to add, as we mentioned before, a self-paced Canvas course that would be available statewide in NESIS. And NESIS, by the way, is an acronym for the North Carolina Educator Evaluation System within home base, and also provide that in Canvas Commons. And once we do that, you won't have to be emailing Satli to get signed up for that course. You'll be able to go into the statewide version of NESIS, that blue Canvas icon that you saw, and actually enroll yourself and get started with the course, because we set it up as self-paced. In addition, there are some other training materials that we have had on our website in the past. Some of you know that we've just transitioned to Google websites this year. And so we want to know from you what other LinguaFolio training materials you'd like to see on the NC LinguaFolio website for everyone to have access to, in addition to this Canvas course we've been talking about. So for example, we have what we call PD, or professional development kits, available. And those are a series of slides, handouts, and activities for a 1 hour or a 3 hour version of either administrator training for LinguaFolio or teacher training for LinguaFolio. And we can repost those in an updated format if you think that's something that would be valuable to have for professional development on the NC LinguaFolio page. We also have a series of teacher videos about classroom implementation of LinguaFolio in different classrooms. So we have a DLI, or dual language immersion videos, we have ESL classroom videos, and we have world language classrooms K-12. Those videos were originally taken at the LinguaFolio carousel event we did in 2012, and they are literally just teachers sharing for about 10 to 20 minutes about what they do in their classroom to start LinguaFolio, or start using LinguaFolio with their students, or maybe how they implement certain LinguaFolio activities and goal setting, for example, with their students. And then there might be other things that you would like to see as far as the LinguaFolio training that's posted on the website and available to everyone for free. So I'm going to do a quick poll question to find out from you what you'd like to have, what kind of LinguaFolio professional development do you want to be available on the web page. So those options we just talked about. And like always, those are check all that apply that you think would be useful to you or would be useful to you in your training environment. Maybe you're responsible for training others, or you want to share this with colleagues or something like that. Please consider all those options and tell us what you'd like to see as far as LinguaFolio professional development. I'll go ahead and let you fill out that poll, and then we'll be back to wrap up our webinar. So let's go ahead and finish up our voting. We know we are right almost on 6 o'clock. We hope you can stay and finish out with us today, even if we go a little bit over. Please know that we will post a recording of this broadcast or the one that's next Wednesday, or both, about a week from now. So if you need to catch up on something, if you have to go, we certainly understand. All right, let's finish up our voting to find out what you'd like to see. All right, I'm going to close out our poll and show you the results. Well, sadly, it looks like 90% want to see those teacher videos reposted as soon as possible, and we can probably make that happen before the end of this month, so that's good news. Those will be available to you on our NC LinguaFolio page. We also have a great interest in the instructions for the self-paced Canvas course. That may take a little longer than to the end of this month, but we will work to get that ready for you so that it's accessible and easy to get to as possible. We also have some people interested in the Canvas Commons course so that they can adapt it for local use or use it outside of our NESIS and home-based system, perhaps for private schools or for people in higher education, which is great. And of course, we also have almost about that same amount who are interested in those PD kits where the training's been packaged a little bit differently in 1 hour or 3 hour segments. And so we can post that information as well on the website for you. Always keep in mind with the Canvas course of the Introduction to LinguaFolio training, those materials are available to you immediately through the national website, the NACESFL website, and we will, like I said, put them in a Canvas course. And the nice thing about having them a Canvas course in North Carolina in our system is that the contact hours or CEU for licensure renewal is automatically documented. Whereas if you just do the modules from the national site, you have to document your own work locally. So it's always good to know. All right, well, let's close out. Like I said, if you do need to leave us, don't worry, we're recording. But if you can stay on, we'd love to have you finish out with us this afternoon. One thing we're thinking about is the LinguaFolio Cafe because of teacher requests, and I'll let Sally talk about that.
Yes, we have a lot of comments during the pilot. Teachers wanted some time to collaborate, to talk about how they were using LinguaFolio in their classrooms, what kind of strategies they were using with their students, how to troubleshoot, if they were using different devices. Some of them had Chromebooks, some other iPads. So they wanted to share all those different things. So we decided that this year we're going to start the LinguaFolio Cafe. Speaking of the one with the spicy, the pumpkin spice latte, we need some coffee right now too. But yeah, we said we're going to start these discussions. It's going to be a little bit informal, semi-structured meetings where we're going to have some information that we're going to share. If we have several questions in common, then we're going to have a discussion about it. But then it's going to be open for all participants to share what they have been doing with LinguaFolio, different ideas on how to incorporate it, implement it in their classes. And we think that's really good. And we love the idea when we heard about it during the pilot. So that's what we thought, that maybe we could offer these possible dates where we will meet for 1 hour online, the same format we have followed today through GoToWebinar. And it could be maybe from 3 to 6, and it could be 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6 in different times. So we're going to continue with a poll, and we want you to tell us which of these dates would be most convenient for you. So we have October, 2 dates in October, Tuesday, Wednesday, November, Thursday. We have in December a couple of dates. So what do you think? And we are not limited to one meeting, because it depends how you feel. If you want to get together several times, we are open for that, because you are the ones that are going to be leading these meetings. So let's go and open our poll, and please select all the dates that you think will work for you for this LinguaFolio Cafe.
And this would probably be for the first LinguaFolio Cafe if it became something popular or people wanted to do again. But we did want to get it started this fall. So go ahead and check the dates that you think would be workable for you. All right, let's go ahead and finish out our voting. Another 5 seconds. All right, I'm going to close out our poll. And it looks like for this group, and again, we have another broadcast next Wednesday, but it looks like the most popular option is Thursday, November 14th for that initial one, although the December dates are also popular, and the dates even in October got some votes. So we know those are coming up on Halloween as well. But so we'll keep that in mind that you like Thursday, November 14th. All right.
So now we have another poll. So we want your input of the on the time. What time would be most convenient for you to have these LinguaFolio Cafe sessions? So we have 3 to 4, 3:30 to 4:30, 4 to 5, 4:30 to 5:30, and 5 to 6. So please, once we open the poll, select the option that fits best for you.
And we try to come up with times that are after school because we know that as teachers, you'll want to be done with all of your students and instructional responsibilities for the day. And so we want to know what time works best for you. All right, let's take about 5 seconds and finish voting on the time slot, the 1-hour time slot that would work well for the LinguaFolio Cafe. All right, thank you. And I'll share these. Looks like 50% of you said the latest time slot, 5 to 6, would be best, but we also have a lot of votes for 4 to 5 and votes for the other time slots as well. So once again, we'll take that into consideration. We'll see what our participants on next week's broadcast for this same webinar say, and then we'll go from there. All right, well, we're almost done. Let's finish up with the LinguaFolio sponsorship project.
Okay, so briefly, I'm gonna share that last year, NCDPI, the ESL Title III team, started offering sponsorships for educators. We awarded this, and we were able to cover all the expenses and registration fee for educators in the state that applied. And we offered this initially to ESL teachers, but then we were able to offer this to world languages and other content area teachers. And then as the teachers were participated in the different events, they completed some tasks. Some of them completed a Twitter chat or an online resource, or they presented in their districts and then they shared their PowerPoints with us. But this year we have revamped these sponsorships, and we have some of the DPI consultants participating as project leads. And Marie is going to tell you, because she's super excited. She is the lead for 3 projects. She was the overachiever. We thought, well, 1 project, but she went ahead and she said, I want to support my teachers, and I'm going to offer these 3 projects. So she's going to tell you about that project, specifically targeting LinguaFolio.
I'm sorry, I think I was muted. Let me continue on. So Sally asked me to think about what kinds of projects we could do that would create instructional support tools for language learning, specifically for world languages, but that would also have a high impact on our English learners, because our sponsorship recipients are going to the FLANC conference, the Foreign Language Association of North Carolina conference in late October, or the ACTFL convention, with the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages National Conference in Washington, D.C. in November. And so we worked on that, and what we came up for the LinguaFolio project was to add to our LinguaFolio online training. So we mentioned those modules. We keep talking about them and how they are available nationally, but also in our Canvas course on the Introduction to LinguaFolio training. And we want to add to them. We want teachers who are recipients of the sponsorships to choose one of those modules and create a video and activity on classroom implementation LinguaFolio that would go into one of those modules. And that would be then available in our Introduction to LinguaFolio Canvas course that would be self-paced. And so that's the project for the sponsorship if you choose LinguaFolio. So I'm happy to tell you that there will be 20 people at Flank on sponsorships and 10 at Actful from North Carolina on sponsorships, who will be able to choose the LinguaFolio project if they want, or one of the other 2 projects that have to do with our Global Languages Endorsement, which is our state seal of biliteracy, or dual and heritage language programs in general. So that's the LinguaFolio project, and we're happy to share that with you and have you look forward to those instructional support tools that will be added to our modules. Well, we're at the end of our broadcast today. The last thing we want to share with you is to make sure you sign up for the NC LinguaFolio listserv. Our listserv has announcements about things like this webinar, but also other supports for LinguaFolio and implementing your classroom. There are periodic newsletters and articles we share, and there are updates about professional development and other opportunities for teachers that we always share on the listserv. If you're participating in this broadcast today, we will make sure your email address has been added to the NC LinguaFolio listserv, but we know you might want to get other listserv information. So Sally has a way to do that.
Yes, when you use the link that is at the bottom of the slide, you will access all the NCDPI newsletters. When you type bit.ly/NCDPI updates, it will prompt a page that asks for your email. When you type your email and click on submit, then you will see all the different newsletters and listservs. So you will have from the Office of Charter Schools, federal programs, K-12 standards curriculum and division, and all the different content areas. So you will have science, social studies, ELA, ESL, world languages. So you will have access to all the listservs that we have at the department. And some of these listservs, we send newsletters or messages quarterly, some others monthly. So it depends what you want, but we would love you to sign up for 2 specific listservs today. And it's the Teachers of English Learners and the World Languages listserv, because these 2 will give you the opportunity to receive all the information that we share. And most likely some of you have already signed up for this and subscribed, and that's why you're here. So please share this link with your colleagues in the school. Just print the link and say, hey, sign up, because DPI is sharing a lot of resources and you can miss this opportunity. So this is something that you should do, sign up, and maybe other content areas that you might be interested in, or other information, or if you serve students that are dual identified, for example, ESL and EC, you can sign up for their listserv and get some information as well.
So there's a lot of information available to you. We're going to wrap up for today and take final questions. We thank you for being with us today, and especially as we got through our technical difficulties at the beginning. We hope you've learned something today and are eager to explore more about LinguaFolio in North Carolina and how you can use it in your classroom this year. I'll go ahead and go back to the last slide so you can see that contact information for the listservs, and I'll take a quick look and see what other questions we need to answer in the question box. We have some people stepping out, and we thank you for being with us as long as you can. We know it's been a busy day for you, and you know, we are at 6 o'clock, so it's time probably to head home or to head into your evening activities, whatever those are for this evening. I do see someone who says they love the LinguaFolio Cafe idea. We did too. We thought it was a good opportunity for teachers to just share with each other about how they implement LinguaFolio in the classroom, how they tackle different issues that come up, maybe with using a certain version of LinguaFolio, or sharing it with students and implementing LinguaFolio in your classroom with different age students or different groups of students. And so we want that informal sharing to happen, and we want to be able to facilitate that as much as we can, although we know you do that too when you go to conferences and connect with other teachers. We have a couple of questions that I think are very interesting. One of them is, how can I use LinguaFolio to promote more speaking in the language? And we would encourage you to look at LinguaFolio and think about, first of all, what the can-do statements say, and have your students review those to see all the things that they should be able to do with speaking the language, because that can guide them in setting goals for speaking the language more often and in different contexts, both informally and formally. So there's a lot of ways that LinguaFolio can promote that, because again, LinguaFolio really empowers the student to manage their own language learning and the growth that they're doing. So that's one way it happens. We also see some other things here. We've got some questions about how can we get the online version, the LFO, or the LFO to go app for students. And if you go to the LFO for NC webpage right now, you'll see that we're going to put together a quick Google form, because in North Carolina, as we said, we have contracted with the University of Oregon, or CASELS, to provide you with free access. So you would be able to get a teacher account, and you'd be able to get student accounts through our state work with them. To do that, we're going to have you fill out a Google form and tell us who you are and which schools you're located in, because we have to give you a unique what's called join code so that you have access to that for your own work as a teacher, having a LinguaFolio, an LFO account, but also to provide your students with those. So look for that information to be shared soon about how you as a teacher can get that information and start using LFO in your classroom. All right. Again, thank you so much. It looks like most of our questions are done, so I'm going to ask Sally to go ahead and stop our recording. That allows our system to go ahead and start processing that recording to post it for you.